Before he died, Audie Murphy revealed 9 stars who were secretly gay. He was America's most decorated combat soldier of World War II, a war hero who faced death countless times, killed 240 enemy soldiers, and earned every medal for valor his country could bestow, including the Medal of Honor. When Audie Murphy came to Hollywood, he brought with him not just his battlefield courage, but a profound understanding of human nature under pressure. Audie knew what it meant to live with secrets, revealed a former studio executive who worked closely with Murphy in the 1950s. He carried the trauma of war his entire life. That experience gave him a unique empathy for others forced to hide their true selves, including some of Hollywood's biggest stars. According to those closest to him, Murphy developed an unusual bond with several actors and actresses who were living double lives during Hollywood's golden age. Stars whose public images as romantic leading men or glamorous leading ladies concealed their true sexual identities. Audie didn't gossip about these things, explained a former co-star. He just recognized the pain of people forced to pretend. Having lived through hell in Europe, he had little patience for the artificial morality of Hollywood that forced good people to live in fear. Tonight, we reveal the 9 Golden Age stars who Audie Murphy reportedly knew were gay or bisexual, iconic figures who maintained carefully constructed heterosexual public images while living with the constant threat of career destruction if their true identities were exposed.
When he left, I was 4. I never for a moment thought child's mentality.
1. Rock Hudson, Hollywood's heartthrob with a secret. Rock Hudson epitomized the masculine ideal of 1950s Hollywood, tall, handsome, and romantically paired with America's sweethearts in film after film. His studio-crafted image as the ultimate ladies' man made him one of the industry's most bankable stars. According to multiple sources, Murphy was among the select few who knew the truth behind Hudson's carefully maintained facade. The most famous closeted star of the era, noted a former publicity agent who worked with both men. Murphy and Hudson shared agents, social circles, and military respect. Hudson had served in the Navy, which created a bond between them despite their very different personalities. Hudson's homosexuality was an open secret within certain Hollywood circles, but completely hidden from the general public. His studio, Universal, went to extraordinary lengths to protect their valuable property, even arranging a marriage to his agent's secretary, Phyllis Gates, to quash persistent rumors about his sexuality. Audie never judged him, but he also knew the mask Rock wore was breaking, recalled a mutual friend. Murphy could see the psychological toll of living such a profound lie. He recognized in Hudson's eyes the same haunted look he sometimes saw in his own mirror, the exhaustion of maintaining a false front. The 2 stars moved in overlapping social circles throughout the 1950s and early 1960s, and according to those close to Murphy, he developed a genuine respect for Hudson's professionalism and kindness toward crew members, qualities Murphy valued highly. At the same time, he reportedly recognized the profound unfairness of a system that forced Hudson to deny his authentic self. Murphy believed in honesty as a core virtue, explained a former co-star, not in a judgmental way, but as something essential to psychological health. He saw Hudson as a good man, forced into dishonesty by a system that gave him no alternative if he wanted to maintain his career. When Hudson was diagnosed with AIDS in the 1980s, becoming the first major celebrity to publicly acknowledge having the disease, many Americans were shocked to learn of his homosexuality. Murphy, who had died in a plane crash in 1971, wasn't alive to see Hudson's secret finally revealed. According to those who knew both men, Murphy would have admired Hudson's eventual openness, while lamenting that it came only when the actor was facing death.
What's this? Who is he?
He's Mr. Hoskins.
2. Cary Grant, the ultimate leading man's private life. Cary Grant defined sophisticated masculinity for generations of moviegoers. His charm, wit, and seemingly effortless elegance made him the standard against which all other leading men were measured. Behind this perfect public image, according to Murphy's private observations, lay a more complex reality that included a lengthy domestic partnership with fellow actor Randolph Scott. Lived with Randolph Scott for over a decade, said a former production assistant who claimed knowledge of Murphy's awareness of the arrangement. Murphy allegedly told a friend they weren't just roommates. They were the only honest thing in that house. Grant and Scott shared a home on and off for nearly 12 years. a living situation that generated gossip within Hollywood, but was presented to the public as an economical bachelor arrangement. The studio system worked diligently to craft alternate narratives, including heavily publicized relationships with women and eventually a series of marriages for both men. He said Grant played straight better than anyone, on screen and off, recalled a director who worked with both Grant and Murphy. Audie recognized in Grant a fellow performer, someone who had created a character so convincing that the line between performance and reality had blurred even for Grant himself. What reportedly impressed Murphy about Grant was not just his ability to maintain his public image, but his creation of a private space where he could be authentic, at least for a time. The home Grant shared with Scott allegedly represented a rare zone of truth in an industry built on carefully constructed illusions. According to those close to Murphy, he viewed Grant's situation with a mixture of respect for the actor's navigation of an impossible situation and sadness at the necessity of such elaborate deception. Murphy reportedly recognized in Grant's carefully managed life a reflection of the larger hypocrisy of an entertainment system that sold romantic fantasies while denying performers the right to authentic personal lives. Murphy understood performance as both professional skill and survival mechanism, explained a former agent who knew both men. He'd seen how quickly a mask could become a prison, and he recognized in Grant someone who had essentially been forced to live inside a character of his own creation. Grant's sexuality remains a subject of debate among historians, with some arguing he was bisexual rather than exclusively gay. Whatever the complete truth, Murphy allegedly recognized in Grant someone whose public persona required careful management and significant personal sacrifice, a situation he understood all too well from his own experience of presenting a heroic face while battling private demons.
Lobby or an elevator, they usually come towards me rather than say, oh, there's Norman Bates. They usually say, oh, let's tell him our psycho stories about when,
3. Anthony Perkins, the tortured talent. Anthony Perkins created one of cinema's most iconic characters as the disturbed Norman Bates in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. His performance captured a man torn apart by conflicting identities and desires, a role that, according to Murphy's private observations, reflected aspects of Perkins' off-screen struggles with his sexual orientation. Known for tortured duality, dated Tab Hunter secretly for years, revealed a former casting director who knew all three men. Audie once worked with a screenwriter who claimed, "Tony was the saddest man I ever met because he couldn't be himself." Perkins' homosexuality remained largely hidden from the public throughout his career, though he had relationships with several men, including a significant romance with actor Tab Hunter. Like many gay performers of his era, Perkins eventually married a woman, photographer Barry Berenson, and fathered 2 sons, maintaining a public image that conformed to studio and societal expectations. Audie respected pain, and he knew Tony carried it everywhere, said a mutual friend. Murphy recognized in Perkins someone whose authentic self had been so thoroughly suppressed that it created a kind of constant internal tension, visible in his performances but carefully hidden in public appearances. What particularly struck Murphy about Perkins, according to those who knew both men, was the psychological cost of this sustained deception. Unlike some stars who seem to compartmentalize their public and private lives effectively, Perkins appeared to internalize the conflict, creating a visible strain that informed his most powerful performances while taking a significant personal toll. Murphy believed that carrying secrets eventually poisoned something essential in a person, explained a fellow actor. He'd seen it in combat veterans who couldn't speak about their experiences, and he recognized a similar burden in Perkins, the exhaustion of maintaining a fundamental deception about one's identity. Perkins's struggle remained largely private until after his death from AIDS-related pneumonia in 1992. In subsequent years, his widow Barry Berenson spoke about his bisexuality with remarkable grace and understanding, suggesting their marriage had contained genuine love despite its complex foundations. For Murphy, who died more than 2 decades before Perkins, the actor reportedly represented a particularly poignant example of Hollywood's human cost. Genuine talent shaped and sometimes distorted by the need to conform to artificial standards of identity and behavior.
Usually during the 4 or 5, and I usually use those for sleep.
It's an incredibly heavy workload for this.
It's almost an impossible workload.
Well, how long will Perry...
4. Raymond Burr, the stalwart with secrets. Raymond Burr became one of television's most beloved figures as the principled, unflappable attorney Perry Mason, a character whose moral clarity and commitment to justice resonated deeply with American audiences. Behind this persona of unwavering integrity, according to Murphy's private observations, Burr maintained a carefully guarded private life that included a long-term relationship with his male partner. Publicly denied being gay his whole life, but had a long-term male partner, noted a former studio executive who claimed knowledge of Murphy's awareness of Burr's situation. Murphy reportedly told a director, "That man's hiding something big." Burr created an elaborate fictional biography to conceal his homosexuality, claiming to have been married 3 times and to have lost a son to leukemia. In reality, he lived for over 30 years with his partner, Robert Benavides, whom he met on the set of Perry Mason in 1960. Their relationship was disguised as a business partnership, with the 2 men establishing an orchid-growing business and a vineyard together. He wasn't judging, he was recognizing, recalled a mutual acquaintance, describing Murphy's reaction to Burr's carefully constructed public narrative. Audie understood that Burr's entire career would have collapsed if the truth had become public. Perry Mason couldn't be gay in 1960s America. What reportedly impressed Murphy about Burr was his ability to create a zone of authenticity in his private life while maintaining his public facade. Unlike some closeted stars who lived in constant fear and isolation, Burr established a lasting relationship and built a life that, while hidden from public view, provided genuine emotional support and connection. According to those close to Murphy, he viewed Burr's situation with a particular empathy born of his own experience living with secrets. Though the nature of their respective hidden truths differed dramatically, Murphy's trauma from combat versus Burr's sexual orientation, both men understood the vigilance required to maintain a public persona that concealed essential aspects of identity. Murphy recognized a kind of courage in how Burr had constructed his life, explained a former co-star who knew both men. Not the obvious bravery of battlefield heroics, but the quieter courage of creating authenticity within constraints, of building something real behind the necessary illusion. Burr's relationship with Benavides remained largely unknown to the public until after his death in 1993. The 2 men had spent 33 years together, a remarkable achievement in an era when such relationships faced both legal jeopardy and career-ending exposure if discovered. For Murphy, who died more than 2 decades before Burr, the actor reportedly exemplified the complex reality faced by gay performers in the studio era. The necessity of elaborate deception balanced against the human need for genuine connection and authentic relationship.
Where?
Well, it showed pretty good at Palm Springs. I ran a Bakersfield.
5. James Dean, The Rebel's Fluid Identity. James Dean embodied youthful rebellion and tortured sensitivity in his brief but explosive film career. His performances in East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant created a cultural icon whose influence far outlived his tragic death at age 24. According to Murphy's private observations, Dean's magnetic screen presence was connected to a complex sexual identity that defied the rigid categories of his era. Bisexual rumors surrounded Dean for decades, said a former casting director who knew both actors. Murphy dismissed Dean as all posing, but later admitted he wanted to be free, and the town wouldn't let him. Unlike many closeted stars who carefully compartmentalized their public and private lives, Dean reportedly brought a provocative ambiguity to both his performances and his public persona. His friendships and relationships with both men and women fueled ongoing speculation about his sexuality, creating a mystique that became part of his enduring appeal. He wasn't dangerous, but the rumors were, a mutual acquaintance recalled Murphy saying. Audie understood that Dean's refusal to conform completely to Hollywood's heterosexual expectations represented a genuine risk to his career, one that only his extraordinary talent and audience appeal made possible. What reportedly evolved in Murphy's assessment of Dean was a growing recognition of the younger actor's authenticity, despite initial skepticism about his somewhat theatrical persona. According to those close to Murphy, he came to view Dean's resistance to clear categorization as a form of courage, a refusal to be defined by the artificial boundaries that constrained most performers of the era. Murphy had little patience for artifice or affectation, explained a director who worked with both men. But he eventually recognized in Dean something genuine beneath the carefully cultivated image, a true refusal to compromise essential aspects of identity despite the professional risks involved. Dean's sexuality remains a subject of ongoing debate, with various biographers and associates offering different perspectives on his relationships and preferences. This ambiguity itself may reflect the most accurate understanding of Dean's identity, one that resisted the binary categories that dominated his era's understanding of sexual orientation. For Murphy, who died in 1971, Dean reportedly represented a different approach to navigating Hollywood's restrictions, neither complete concealment nor open defiance, but a kind of strategic ambiguity that created space for authenticity while maintaining career viability. According to those who knew Murphy, he came to respect this approach as its own form of resistance to an unjust system.
Well, Garbo just set me the first talking picture.
6. Marlene Dietrich, the international icon's fluid love life. Marlene Dietrich brought European sophistication and provocative sensuality to Hollywood, creating an iconic screen presence that challenged American conventions of femininity. Her trademark tuxedos, sexually ambiguous performances, and unapologetic independence made her unique among Golden Age stars. According to Murphy's private observations, Dietrich's screen persona reflected a personal authenticity rare among performers of her era. Murphy respected her wartime service, but insiders say he knew about her girls as much as her medals, revealed a former USO coordinator who worked with both performers. Their shared commitment to entertaining troops during World War II created a bond despite their vastly different public images. Dietrich's bisexuality was more openly acknowledged in European circles than among the American public. Throughout her career, she had relationships with numerous men and women, maintaining a marriage to Rudolf Sieber, while engaging in affairs with leading Hollywood figures of both sexes, including actresses Greta Garbo, Edith Piaf, and Mercedes D'Acosta. He said Marlene was the bravest of them all, on the battlefield and in the bedroom, recalled a mutual friend. Murphy admired how she refused to apologize for who she was, even in an era when such honesty carried significant professional risks. What particularly impressed Murphy about Dietrich, according to those close to him, was her courage during World War II. Despite her German origins, she became an outspoken critic of Nazism, renounced her German citizenship to become an American, and spent extensive time entertaining Allied troops near the front lines, earning military honors from the United States, France, and Belgium for her contributions. Audie saw in Dietrich a different kind of courage than his own, explained a former agent who knew both performers. His was the immediate bravery of combat. Hers was the sustained courage of living authentically in a world that demanded conformity. He recognized both as genuine expressions of character. Unlike many stars on Murphy's alleged list, Dietrich never completely hid her fluid sexuality, though Hollywood publicity certainly emphasized her relationships with men while downplaying her affairs with women. This relative openness, at least within industry circles, represented a distinct approach to navigating the restrictions of the era. According to those who knew Murphy, he viewed Dietrich's refusal to fully conform to Hollywood's morality demands as an extension of the same independence that led her to risk her career by opposing Nazism and supporting Allied forces. Both positions reflected a commitment to personal integrity over professional expediency, a quality Murphy reportedly valued highly. For Murphy, who died in 1971, Dietrich represented a particular kind of authenticity rare in Hollywood, someone whose public persona, while certainly crafted and managed, nevertheless incorporated genuine aspects of her complex identity rather than constructing a completely artificial alternative.
Say, that's funny. Coming from you.
I know. Oh, Joe, do you remember the night you spoke of music and what it meant to you?
7. Barbara Stanwyck, the strong woman with a hidden love. Barbara Stanwyck built her career playing tough, independent women who refused to be defined or controlled by men. Her performances in films like Double Indemnity, The Lady Eve, and Ball of Fire established her as one of Hollywood's most versatile and compelling actresses. According to Murphy's private observations, Stanwyck's strength on screen reflected a personal authenticity that included a carefully concealed same-sex relationship. Rumored to have had a long-term relationship with her publicist, said a former studio employee who claimed knowledge of Murphy's awareness of the situation. Murphy allegedly refused to attend events with her husband, Robert Taylor. He said that whole marriage was a script. Stanwyck's marriage to actor Robert Taylor lasted from 1939 to 1952, and was widely regarded within Hollywood circles as a lavender marriage, a union arranged primarily to protect both performers from rumors about their sexuality. While Taylor's sexuality remains a subject of debate among historians, Stanwyck's long-term relationship with her publicist Helen Ferguson has been documented by several biographers. Audie could spot a fake, and he thought theirs was the biggest. A mutual acquaintance recalled Murphy saying about the Stanwyck-Taylor marriage. He didn't condemn either of them. He understood they were playing by Hollywood's rules, but he recognized the artifice for what it was. What reportedly impressed Murphy about Stanwyck was her ability to maintain her dignity and privacy despite living under the constant scrutiny that came with stardom. According to those close to Murphy, he viewed Stanwyck as someone who had made necessary compromises with an unjust system without allowing those compromises to fundamentally diminish her character or integrity. Murphy respected how Stanwyck conducted herself, explained a former co-star who knew both performers. She never pretended to be something she wasn't, except in the most public aspects of her life where survival required it. In private, with trusted friends, she maintained an authenticity that Murphy recognized and valued. Stanwyck's relationship with Ferguson reportedly continued for decades, though both women maintained public discretion throughout their lives. This long-term commitment, conducted outside the public eye, but known within certain Hollywood circles, represented a significant achievement in an era when such relationships faced both legal jeopardy and professional consequences if exposed. For Murphy, who died in 1971, Stanwyck reportedly exemplified the complex reality faced by lesbian and bisexual women in the studio era, the necessity of public conformity balanced against the human need for genuine connection and authentic relationship.
See? I mean, no.
8. Montgomery Clift, the tortured talent. Montgomery Clift brought a new kind of masculine vulnerability to Hollywood, creating performances of such emotional depth and sensitivity that they transformed screen acting. His work in films like From Here to Eternity, A Place in the Sun, and The Misfits established him as one of the most gifted actors of his generation. According to Murphy's private observations, Clift's extraordinary talent was inseparable from his experience as a gay man forced to hide his authentic identity. Deeply closeted, self-destructive, brilliant, noted a former director who worked with both men. Murphy reportedly called him the best actor in the world and the loneliest. There was a mutual recognition between them, two men living with profound secrets, though of very different kinds. Unlike some closeted stars who maintained stable private lives despite public deception, Clift struggled with the psychological toll of hiding his sexuality. His increasing reliance on alcohol and prescription drugs, particularly after a devastating car accident in 1956 that permanently altered his appearance, reflected a deepening internal conflict that ultimately contributed to his early death at age 45. He knew Monty was broken long before the crash, recalled a mutual friend. Audie recognized in Clift's eyes something he had seen in combat veterans, the exhaustion of constant vigilance, of never being able to fully relax into one's authentic self. What particularly impressed Murphy about Clift, according to those close to him, was how the actor channeled his personal struggles into performances of extraordinary emotional truth. Despite the fundamental deception required in his public life, Clift brought a rare authenticity to his screen work, drawing on his own experience of internal conflict and hidden identity to create characters of unique psychological complexity. Murphy believed great art often emerged from personal pain, explained a former agent who knew both actors. He saw in Clift someone who transformed the very constraints that caused him suffering into the raw material of brilliant performance, a kind of artistic alchemy that Murphy deeply respected. Clift's sexuality remained largely hidden from the public during his lifetime, though rumors circulated within industry circles. His relationships with men were conducted with extreme discretion, while studio publicity emphasized friendships with female co-stars to maintain his image as a romantic leading man. For Murphy, who died in 1971, just 5 years after Clift, the actor reportedly represented both the extraordinary artistic possibilities and the devastating personal costs of living as a gay man in mid-century Hollywood. According to those who knew Murphy, he viewed Clift's struggle with particular compassion, recognizing in it a different manifestation of the same psychological burden he carried from his combat experiences. the exhaustion of maintaining a public persona that concealed essential aspects of identity and experience.
Hello, I'm Tab Hunter. Did you know that mental illness claims more victims than any other disease?
9. Tab Hunter, the all-American boy next door. Tab Hunter epitomized the clean-cut American ideal of the 1950s, blonde, handsome, athletic, and unfailingly wholesome on screen. His popularity with teenage girls made him one of Warner Brothers' most valuable young stars and the subject of countless fan magazine features about his romantic life. According to Murphy's private observations, Hunter's public image represented one of Hollywood's most complete fabrications, a carefully constructed facade hiding his life as a gay man. All-American boy image, but lived in fear of being outed, said a former studio publicist who worked with both men. Audie and Tab were said to cross paths through mutual studio contacts. Though they weren't close friends, Murphy recognized the particular burden Hunter carried as someone whose entire career was built on a false narrative about his personal life. Hunter's studio-crafted public image included publicized dates with starlets and co-stars, manufactured romances, and carefully managed public appearances designed to reinforce his heterosexual appeal. Meanwhile, he conducted his actual romantic life in complete secrecy, including a relationship with actor Anthony Perkins that remained hidden for decades. Murphy told a friend, "He's a good man, and that town's going to eat him alive," recalled a mutual acquaintance. Audie recognized in Hunter someone whose natural decency was being strained by the constant deception required to maintain his career, a situation Murphy understood well from his own experience of presenting a heroic public face while battling private demons. What particularly concerned Murphy about Hunter, according to those close to him, was the vulnerability created by the stark contrast between his public image and private reality. The greater the disparity between persona and truth, the more catastrophic the potential consequences of exposure, and few stars of the era embodied a greater disparity than the wholesome Hunter. Murphy believed that systems built on lies eventually collapsed, explained a former co-star who knew both men. He worried that performers like Hunter, whose entire careers depended on maintaining complete deception, faced not just professional but psychological danger, the corrosive effect of sustained inauthenticity. Hunter's fear of exposure was nearly realized in 1955, when Confidential magazine published a story about his arrest at a limp-wristed pajama party years earlier. Only his studio's aggressive management of the situation and his own careful public response prevented the incident from destroying his career. This brush with professional disaster underscored the precarious position of gay performers in the studio era. For Murphy, who died in 1971, Hunter reportedly represented a particularly troubling example of Hollywood's moral hypocrisy, an industry that profited from projecting an image of all-American wholesomeness while forcing the actual humans behind those images to deny fundamental aspects of their identity. Hunter himself eventually embraced his truth, publishing a candid autobiography in 2005 that confirmed decades of rumors about his sexuality. His honesty in later life provided a measure of resolution that many of his contemporaries never achieved, a final authenticity that Murphy, had he lived to see it, would likely have deeply respected.